We're here at the ASUS headquarters where they have sponsored a video for us to take a look at their latest and greatest technologies. Now there are the new 5060 laptops and we'll briefly look at those. But what I think is a lot more interesting is their new display stuff. We're going into their secret tech demo room where we have some very nice displays and also a whole lot of echo. Wow, I am so sorry about the audio of this video, but I am not sorry about these displays. Man, look at I'm not sure if you'll be able to tell after YouTube compression, but we have the last gen Strix G and the current gen, and they have the same panel minus the coating, and the difference it makes is incredible. So they have a new ACR coating, and apparently the reflectivity has gone down from 6% on the old one to 3% on the new one. I really hope that you can tell just how apparent the difference is in the rejection of my phone's flashlight when I'm shining it on these, because it is wild. And also, it helps so much with being able to see details. Like this cat right here, the contrast on this display is so much better. You can see a lot more detail in these sort of bluish highlights compared to the last gen. And overall, it just looks a lot better with nothing more than a different coating on top. Continuing with display improvements that are incredibly important, but also very subtle, is the Nebula Display HDR. Now, we already took a look at this on ShortCircuit and it is exceptional, but it and basically every other HDR display on a Windows laptop have this problem where they overblow all of the colors. Not so much anymore. We can go in here, turn off vivid mode and go into true color HDR. And man, it looks so much better. The difference between looking like a real leaf right here or some real grass and a television that you look at in Best Buy is exceptional. Here's the last gen panel. This one is 1100 nits compared to the 1200 nit new one. And even though this one probably looks brighter and more colorful to you, man, this one looks so much better. Probably the highest praise that I could give to this display is that with its new true color mode, I was able to compare it to a certain fruit company's 4th iteration of their Pro laptop, and the display looks almost identical. There's pretty much no higher praise that you can give for an HDR display right now. But fortunately, not only mobile devices get display upgrades, you do too, for much less money than previously. This right here is the TUF Gaming, and it is an exceptional value, probably, depending on tariff stuff. But what we have right here is for probably under $300, a 300 Hertz 1440p display that covers 95% of DCI-P3. And honestly, I have been looking at it and it looks really frickin' good for the price. In the past, if you wanted 300 Hertz on a display that wasn't super duper expensive, it looked like hot butt. Fortunately though, this one right here, like, look at this. It isn't mind-blowing in the visual department, but it looks more than good enough. And unsurprisingly, it is fantastic for gaming. This thing right here, being 300 Hertz of course, is fantastic for playing shooters like CSGO, as long as you're not bad like myself. And in the past, for something that had this kind of visuals and half the refresh rate, you'd be paying $600. That's what my monitor was. This stuff is supposed to come out in July, but maybe you're a true esports gamer and you can't just have 300 FPS and you can't just have 600 FPS like their competitors have. No. ASUS has taken their Super TN panel and overclocked it to an astounding 610 FPS, beating the competition by 1.6%. But honestly, this thing is freaking sweet. You can probably tell watching this at 30 FPS, the response times of this are wild. Like just moving the mouse around on this, I have such incredible control of where it goes. It is insane to just look at, but also it isn't too bad to look at for a TN panel. Now, it doesn't look amazing. if we're totally honest. But compared to panels that are super highly tuned for FPS that I've seen in the past, this thing is really quite good, and they were able to achieve that by changing the way that the backlight is done. So as you might know, if you want incredibly crisp motion on your display, you need to strobe the backlight so the backlight's only on when the pixels are in their correct orientation, basically. You don't want to see the pixel changing colors while the backlight is on. This can cause problems though on older monitors where they had a backlight that goes all the way along the bottom, which can, for one, just not look very good, kind of nails your contrast, but also it doesn't allow them to have the kind of control that they have now. By putting the backlights along the sides, they've actually been able to have it so that as your pixels refresh from the top to the bottom, the backlight is able to strobe at the same time, which gives you incredible motion clarity. They call this ELMB2, enhanced blur reduction, and it works pretty freaking good. Combine that with their 0.8 millisecond input latency, and you have an exceptional gaming display for those hardcore gamers out there. This ROG Strix Ace is expected for around $800 and will be launching in July, but maybe you're like me and not a true esports gamer and you just want something that looks pretty darn good. Well, that's where the new ROG Strix OLED XG32 comes in with their new true black glossy version. Or maybe you want the semi-gloss version, or maybe you want the matte version. As we have already discussed in this video, the coating of your display can make a huge difference to how those colors are going to be represented and the contrast that you're able to get. So it's really nice to see that they have a bunch of different options depending on what you want to do. So maybe you're in a bright room, get the matte one. Maybe you can't decide, go for the semi-glossy one. Or I really think you just get the true black glossy, because man, like Glenn, just have a gander at this display. It looks freaking exceptional. Now, we do kind of expect HDR OLED displays to look pretty darn good in 2025. But I was particularly impressed. This one, depending on tariffs and crap, is $800. For that, you get 4K at 165 FPS, or if you're more of a hardcore gamer, you can change it over to be 1080p and 330 FPS. That said though, I'd probably just leave it on 4K because it is OLED, which means that you get those incredible 0.03 millisecond response times because each individual pixel just gets to turn on and off as it wants to. One neat little feature about this display is that it has a proximity sensor. So you're able to have it so that your OLED display doesn't just continue displaying stuff if you leave it alone. And also, I have had problems in the past with laptops and stuff like that having their proximity sensors be way too sensitive. So I'll sort of turn, look away, come back, my laptop's locked. Ah, damn it. Well, here they have a tailored mode so I can come in here. How far do I want to be? 88 centimeters? Oh, can I get 69? 72, 73, 66. Ah, I tried, I'm sorry. The Strix OLED XG32 is able to hit 1300 nits, but if you get an extra $150 laying around, you can spring for the version that does 4K 240 Hertz or 1080p 480 for that wildly fast gaming. But I don't know, I'd probably just go for the 165 if I'm honest. Moving on from displays though, we do have new 5060 laptops. We have the TUF Gaming A14. This right here is one of my favorite laptops of last year, and it does have a little bit of a price bump this year, but such is everything in the world these days. Moving over, we also have some F-series laptops, which get you bigger displays and not quite as much chassis rigidity, if I'm honest, but they do have the new A18 right here, which is a bit large and a bit floppy, but at the same time, for an 18-inch gaming laptop, it is not too bad. In the interest though of actually saving you a buck, ASUS has made this right here, the TUF Gaming T500. It is somewhat like a normal compact desktop, but if you look a little bit more closely, what the heck is this? What the heck is that? Well, what they have done is they have taken a mobile CPU and slapped it onto a sort of desktop motherboard thing. They did this because they realized that mobile CPUs can actually be had for less than their desktop counterparts, and if you just throw a big old heatsink on it and give it a bunch more power and cooling, they perform pretty darn well. This one right here with a 5060 Ti 16 gigabyte is only $1299 with an i7, which is pretty darn good, especially for a little compact desktop thing. And finally, we have the new ASUS G14. This guy right here is really quite cool. So cool that I think I'm not gonna look at it too much because I wanna do a full video on it in ShortCircuit with full labs testing, and it's gonna be pretty sweet, I suspect. What we can look at right now though is the difference between the 5080 version and the new 5060 version. Unsurprisingly, a 5060 is a lot smaller than a 5080. You can see it right here. There's just way less memory, way less VRMs around it, and all of that goodness. That did mean that on the 5060 model, they were able to just slap the SSD right there, everything's good. On the 5080 model, they had to have clearance for a couple of the power modules and stuff here, which means that this SSD had to be a little bit higher off. The 5080 version also gets a larger heat pipe and an extra heat pipe, contributing a little bit to that thickness, and also the fans are a tiny bit bigger just to deal with that extra cooling that they need to do. That logic doesn't apply to every single laptop though. This right here is the Strix G16, and no matter what GPU you get a vapor chamber on it, meaning that your 5060 can be cooled really, really well, your 5090 can be cooled really, really well, and ASUS can be thanked really, really well for sponsoring this video. Huge thanks for watching, guys. Hit like, get subscribed, and check the links down in the description to see what ASUS has on sale. They have so much more stuff in this booth that we just did not have time to cover, but it does not mean that it's not cool. See you later, have a great day.